thanks for getting up at dark 30 because you're a Californian too.
Hey, good morning. Don't tell Warden Newsom that I was up at 4:30 this morning.
Oh, he'll come and get you. I mean, you guys are you produce conservative content for conservative candidates and conservative agencies out here in California. Has COVID been a real pain for you guys in producing the great stuff that helps get conservatives elected?
Yeah, we've been. There's definitely conservative COVID protocols that have gone into place in producing people. But, the simple thing is like stay away from other people and cover your mouth. So it's pretty easy to do in production. Just you use a boom mic instead of a lav mic, and you don't get up in people's grill.
So you have stopped your policy of coughing in one another's faces throughout the production process.
Correct. Well, that's a horrible policy to begin with.
It was controversial, but there was some thought behind it. In any case, Owen Brand of Mass and McQueen, you are involved in political campaigns all across the country. But right now, the crosshairs are on Georgia. What do you think's going on? What do you think of what's going on in Georgia?
Well, the first thing I would say is that everybody in Georgia has to show up if we're going to win. That's a lesson we've learned from the last election, that if you don't show up, we cannot win. It's interesting. Georgia is one of the states where whether or not you voted is a matter of public record. So, if you don't show up, your friends and family in Georgia will know that you didn't show up and you were needed the most.
They'll know that you failed to do your duty as an American to protect the United States from the nightmare that would be imposed by John Edwards II, Electric Boogaloo Ossoff, and Fidel Warnock.
That's true. And I think I was talking to Dwayne during the break, and I think he's correct and said that Warnock may possibly lose this for both of the races. Which isn't.
We can only hope.
Yes.
Really, do you believe that Georgia really is a blue state?
So we've done a lot of work for Senator Ted Cruz, both on his presidential and in his reelection for Senate. And there's all that talk about, Texas is turning purple. Texas is turning purple. These cities are going blue. And there's definitely some truth to that. I mean, if they, Beto O'Rourke, Robert Francis Furry O'Rourke, did something that nobody thought could be done, was that he got people who never voted out to vote. He got people who were unlikely voters out to vote. And that's why that race ended up being very tight and ended up having, millions more voters that had originally been projected at the beginning of the cycle. If the same thing happens, Democrats are able to get people out to vote in Georgia who don't normally vote, who maybe didn't even vote in the presidential election. Republicans are going to be in trouble. So that's why I say, this is a matter of getting people out to vote.
Now, the Owen Brand, are the folks that we're seeking to turn out in Georgia, are they our base voters, or are we attempting to get new voters who maybe didn't even vote in the November election?
Well, there's a really interesting argument to prosecute in Georgia, and that is sort of stripping away, if you can strip away 10, 15% of Democrat voters, this thing is done. The message that's going on down in Georgia to sort of peel those Democrat voters, conservative Democrat voters, Democrats who might be pro-gun, pro-life, pro-school choice, the message to them is that, okay, you pulled the Biden lever. That felt good, right? But do you want to turn the keys to the kingdom over to Bernie, Warren, and AOC? And that is definitely something they don't want to do. These are small business owners who want to, they don't want to take a hit in the pocketbook. They don't want Black Lives Matter, marching on their doorsteps. These are like normal, hardworking Americans who aren't far left political activists. So they need to understand that electing these two Democrat candidates means turning the keys of the kingdom over to far left Democrats and their agenda.
Now, Owen Brennan, I think that's the right plan, and you are the expert at Mass and McQueen, which is your production shop, of doing that. How do you message the conservative Democrats and kind of hand over a subtle message, which is, you maybe you didn't like Donald Trump, maybe he tweets too much, maybe this, maybe that, but you don't want these damn communists raising your taxes and defunding the police. How do you walk that tightrope?
Well, it's interesting. In the one of the messages that was really effective in a number of states we worked in during the cycle that was completely abandoned by the presidential campaign was the rioting and the looting and the lawlessness. Sort of a straight rule of law message that laws matter, that laws have to be applied equally to people, regardless of class, regardless of color, regardless of whether or not they have jobs or not. We brought up a lot of the rioting in some of these races to sort of press that message that, look, the left has been silent on all of these riots. It's been so silent that all those riots kind of went down the memory hole on CNN and MSNBC. And so there is one campaign we have down there that talks about how Warnock and Ossoff, their silence is violence. It's violence against law enforcement. It's violence against the rule of law. It's violence against Georgians, because these guys will not stand up and stand against the violence of the far left. And so that's been a sort of a powerful message to get people sort of motivated to get out the vote.
Now, let's look at from the other side, Owen Brennan. I always, when you're a military guy, you always look at the enemy situation, most likely courses of action. With Ossoff and Warnock, and the fact is they're hardcore leftists running in a state that's not exactly known for hardcore leftists. How do they convince normal people to take a shot on them and essentially give the keys to the kingdom to the people, who say we want to raise your taxes, defund the cops, and basically hand over the pink slip to America to China? How do they run a campaign?
How do Ossoff and Warnock run a campaign?
Yeah, how will they do that, knowing they're leftists, but wanting to appeal to the progressives while not scaring the horses?
I think they have to run a campaign where they hide their agenda. I mean, that's exactly what Warnock has done. He's basically trying to hide, decades of far left activism and crazy talk. Basically, he has to basically deny who he is and deny who they want to be. The fate of the Senate is definitely in Georgia's hands. They're not going to talk about Chuck Schumer. AOC isn't, on the face of all of their ads down there. Elizabeth Warren isn't, out there beating the drum, trying to whip people up to support them. So they basically have to just kind of turn away from the far left part of the party and appear to be the sort of, moderates, reasonable people, which they're not.
So they basically have to lie.
Right. Well, I mean, in politics, once you can fake sincerity, everything else is easy.
Well, Owen Brennan, these guys are hard left folks. And, in the Purdue campaign against Ossoff's been out there a lot, and a lot of this stuff dropped on him. I thought it was interesting, and I was actually pleased at the ruthlessness of it, that the real bombs didn't start dropping on Warnock until after we knew it was going to be a runoff, because there were two big Republicans in there. Neither Republican's going to get to 50%. The big bombs started dropping on Warnock after the election. They held them back in reserve. I kind of like that. It kind of makes me feel better that they're acting with appropriate strategy and ruthlessness.
Well, there's an alternative take that maybe the Oppo dump, they didn't have the Oppo. Right.
No, I bet they had it. My suspicion is they had it and they were just waiting. And it's powerful Oppo. He's praising Farrakhan, Fidel. There's probably, who knows? What else is in this guy's thing? Clearly he's a police defender. Now, you said something interesting, and I want to come back to it. You said the president's campaign abandoned the law and order message. Why do you think it did that?
I don't know. We were talking to a super PAC. We had a couple executions that we ran that helped flip seats in California that really used that message and were effective in flipping messages. There was in the Wall Street Journal a couple days after the election, the analysis showed 88% of GOP voters who went to the polls were motivated by the riots and the lawlessness. So it was a message that resonated with people who pulled the Republican lever. I think the Republicans just kind of wanted to be nice. They wanted
no, that's always a mistake, Owen Brennan. Hey, we have 15 seconds left. Tell America how great the steaks I reverse seared for you were.
Well, I just woke up from a 48-hour hibernation, so they're fully digested, and they were magnificent.
Oh, Owen Brand of Mass and McQueen, producer of No Safe Spaces, which you should go find on demand. It is great. I'm Kurt Schlichter. This is the Hugh Hewitt Radio program. We got one more segment. Stick around.